Let's jump right into this one because today we are looking at something absolutely awe-inspiring. Forget about concrete bunkers for a second. Forget about, high-tech laser grids or modern military architecture. Today, we're exploring a literal geographic fortress. We are diving into an analysis of a piece of the Earth that is so rugged, so jagged, and honestly, so aggressively vertical that it actively defies both human ambition and the most destructive natural forces on the planet. We're talking about Taiwan. And specifically, we're looking at why its raw physical geography has shaped it into an unparalleled natural stronghold. Seriously, you wouldn't be packing a beach towel for this. You'd need heavy-duty climbing gear just to survive the interior. Okay, let's dive into this bold claim from our source material right off the bat. Impossible to invade. Now, throughout history, humanity has, we figured out how to cross oceans, tunnel through solid bedrock, fly over continents, the whole shebang. But as we dig into the research here, you quickly realize we aren't just talking about a challenging hike. We are discovering an extreme topographical anomaly that acts as an impenetrable physical barrier. It's really a masterclass in how dirt, rock, and sheer elevation can form a literal wall, one that stops atmospheric weather systems and hypothetical human armies completely dead in their tracks.
I want you to imagine, just for a second, actually trying to navigate this extreme landscape. Picture yourself trying to move heavy equipment, thousands of people, or hey, even just attempting to establish a simple communication line across this incredibly rugged terrain. It really forces us to ask this vital question. How does terrain dictate power? It bridges that gap between physical geography, the literal rocks and dirt, and geopolitical strategy. As you'll see in our explainer today, you can have all the power, the planning, and the motivation in the world, but if the ground beneath your feet refuses to cooperate, your power is pretty much entirely neutralized. Geography is just that silent rule book that everyone has to play by.
Section 1. The extreme mountain spine. Let's look at the first structural element of this fortress. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is just how overwhelming that 70% figure is. 70% of this entire island is pure, unyielding, mountainous terrain. Literally just 30% is flatland. And that flatland, it's mostly squeezed right onto the heavily populated coastal edges. When you think of an island, you might naturally picture sprawling sandy beaches, gentle rolling hills, but actually that is not the reality here. The reality is that the vast, overwhelming majority of the landmass is this crumpled, dense, vertical maze. If you are trying to cross this island, you aren't walking over it, you are climbing it. Our sources highlight that this severely restricts any large-scale movement to narrow, easily defensible choke points. Logistically, moving massive amounts of supplies or people inland becomes an absolute nightmare, simply because there isn't flat ground to support widespread infrastructure. You're forced into valleys and passes that just naturally bottleneck any kind of progression.
Let's actually slow down for a second and just isolate this mind-boggling number. 260 plus. We are not just talking about steep hills or challenging ridges here. The source material reveals the really staggering fact that Taiwan features over 260 distinct peaks that push past 3,000 meters in elevation. That is nearly 10,000 feet high, stacked one after another over 260 times. Just let that sink in for a moment. Imagine a jagged wall of rock, densely forested, completely shrouded in mist, rising almost 2 miles into the sky right out of the ocean. This intense concentration of extreme verticality creates an inescapable friction for anything or anyone trying to pass through it. It is breathtaking and, frankly, a complete logistical nightmare.
Let's move to Section 2, a dual storm shield, and see how this builds into a multi-purpose defense mechanism.
And this brilliantly illustrates the true genius of natural topography. On one side, we have Threat 1, uncontrollable extreme weather, like the massive typhoons that regularly sweep across the Pacific Ocean. On the other side, Threat 2, the strategic force of human military invaders. Now, these seem like two completely different problems, right? One is meteorological, the other is human. But the exact same mountain spine neutralizes both of these threats identically. When a devastating typhoon slams into those 260 peaks, the mountain range literally shreds the storm system, draining its power and protecting the western side of the island. And if a massive human force attempted to cross, they would face that exact same shredding effect. The terrain forces bottlenecks, limits movement, and entirely breaks down cohesion. Why this matters today is that any modern geopolitical strategy involving this region absolutely has to factor in this unchanging, brutal reality. No matter the military advancements, controlling the space means first fighting the terrain, which acts as this massive, uncompromising equalizer.
Section 3.
Terrain dictates its power. Let's see how topography ultimately dominates.
So the crucial point we get from our sources is this exact phrase, a natural storm shield. Now, this isn't just some poetic metaphor. It is an incredibly accurate description of the physical reality on the ground. The island's physical space perfectly maps to the concept of an invincible defense. Whether the storm is made of swirling Pacific winds and rain, or actually whether the storm is made of human logistics and machinery, the mountain spine simply does not care. The rocks do not negotiate. They stand as a permanent, unyielding shield that has protected the island's interior for millennia. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative thought to ponder. As our technology advances, as we build better machines, stronger aircraft, and far more sophisticated navigation networks, can human technology ever truly overcome the ultimate geographic fortress? Or will raw, rugged nature, with its 3,000-meter peaks and its impenetrable mountain spines, literally always hold the ultimate high ground? It's a fascinating clash between human innovation and ancient geology. I really hope this explainer gave you a fresh perspective on the incredible power of the world beneath our feet. Keep questioning, keep learning, and we'll catch you next time.